Hey there. Hope everything's going great where you're at today. I want to take some time here, and I apologize in advance. This is not going to be a quick video because this is a really important topic, and it's a topic that does need some explanation. So, when we think about scheduling in relation to fixed and variable expenses, especially our rooms department, we all know that we don't have the same business level all the time. And I think sometimes we might fall into the rut of falling into that blanket scheduling situation. What I mean by blanket scheduling is some folks tend to basically use the same schedule week after week with very minor tweaking based on business levels, whether it be on a day-by-day basis, week-by-week basis, so on and so forth. Here's the issue with that, folks. When I say fixed scheduling, I mean most understand that fixed expenses are those that don't fluctuate based on business levels. So they're going to be things like if you're operating a restaurant, things like your loan payment for the restaurant, certain amount of electric, certain amount of utilities. When we're thinking about things like hotels, fixed expenses, like I say, are going to be those salaries, just things that don't change. What things do change when we're talking about business levels as far as expenses goes? So with our rooms, it's going to be laundry supplies consumed. It will be guest supplies in the rooms, rolls of bathroom tissue, so on and so forth. It's even going to go down so much to the amount of paper that we end up using in our printers at the front office. Several different things constitute those variable expenses that float directly off of business levels. Another one of those is going to be variable staffing levels. So when we think about variable staffing levels, yes, we can talk about front office, not so much front office, but especially depending on the size of our property. If we're talking about a large convention hotel, you don't always have all 7 or 8 stations at your front office staffed. Shift by shift basis as well as day by day basis. Business levels don't always necessitate that, especially in our housekeeping department. Now, it's important that folks are hired on the right way. If we're setting up our team members for maybe not so clear expectations up front and telling everyone you've got a guaranteed 40 hours a week, unless we truly know that to be the case, that's not very fair to the team member, because we do work in an industry that business levels are all over the place. And most properties don't have the luxury of having that 90% business week over week over week. Some do, most don't. So what we're talking about today is setting our schedules up based on business levels, okay? So when you think about your spending, budgets are really based on the variable, they're based on occupied rooms, okay? So when you look at those expense lines, usually your housekeeping labor and sometimes your front office labor fluctuates based on occupied rooms in the month that have been budgeted for, okay? So when we think about it that way, it's no wonder that blanket scheduling doesn't work when we go to have our P&L call at the end of the month and look at why our numbers make sense or don't make sense, or why we overspent. It's no wonder that blanket scheduling doesn't usually work in this case, especially for these departments that are very heavy on variable staffing levels. So we're going to talk about that today a little bit, and how we can make this better, how we can work towards success, and try to minimize the use of these blanket schedules when we're talking about variable staffing departments, all right? So I've sent out a couple templates that I've used for many years that work really well to work against the overspending. These are our cost per occupied room driven templates. And I'm going to ask that all of you have received both of these templates. I've emailed them out. You're certainly not required to use them. They may be a helpful tool for some folks, though. One is very basic. The one that starts with the letters CPOR is really the fledgling version that I started using many years ago. It's pretty basic, and you'll see that it is a set up right now for maybe a front office department. But we're not going to really spend time on that one, because once I explain to you the intricacies of the other one that I sent over, the more complex one, that's really, it's the first one on like Red Bull, okay? The one that starts with HSK is the one I'm talking about of the two files. That's the one we're going to discuss in depth here a bit. And I'm going to explain to you the different areas of it and where you're going to have to put input data if you choose to use this template. Now here's the deal. It's not going to be set up for your property. It's going to need tweaking. It's going to need customizing. I'd be happy to help you out with that if any of you are interested in using that. If you tell me what you need changed or what have you, or how many lines you need added, I'd be happy to fix it for you if you don't feel comfortable doing it on your own. But this is pretty formula heavy, so if you start messing with this, you might mess it up. I'll warn you right now. I can always send you a clean copy though if you'd like. So anyways, let's go in and let's just talk about the one that starts with the letters HSK. Okay, so open up that file for me. Here we go. Up along the top of the spreadsheet, you're going to see the days of the week, obviously. You're going to see the date, where you're going to have to input the date. Arrivals, departures, occupied rooms, and occupancy percent. Now here's the deal. This is a forecast. Now keep in mind, and this might seem basic as well, forecasts are just that. This isn't business on the books, okay? This is a forecast. So you need to actually put forth the effort and forecast your rooms for the time you're talking about. Having that knowledge of what we pick up in the short term, what we really feel we're going to be sitting at. Use the information that you know. Use your booking pace report. Use what's on the books. Take into account if there's any group yet to be washed out, netted down, anything like that. If we've got weather coming our way, perhaps, that may have an impact on things, either a positive or a negative impact on our occupancy. There's so many different things that you need to take into account when you're forecasting for something like this, okay? But this video is not about forecasting. This video is about scheduling. But the kicker that I'm going at here is use your forecasted occupied rooms, forecasted arrivals and departures, not on the books, okay? All right. This is important. This is important so that you're staffed up the way that you need to be. So continuing to look down this thing, as you can see, you're going to have to input data on it. You've got your names of your team members off to the left down column A. You've got what the shift is. I like to put an end time. That's up to you. If we're talking housekeeping, you probably leave it open and make an estimate, something like that. All right. I've also been known to put 8 a.m. to WWD. You might wonder what's that mean. It means when work done. So we don't have team members that think, oh, we're leaving at 3 o'clock no matter what today. That's the one issue with putting an end time. We're going to come in at 8 o'clock and we work till when the work is done. Okay? But we all know that we have estimates on these days that you can put on, you can take off, whatever you'd like to do. So when we go over here, you're actually going to have to calculate when you make your schedule how many hours that you have approximately scheduled them for. Okay, that's going to be in this particular template on column I. So you actually do input data in those bold boxed areas. Now in column J, you see wages, total wages. That has a multiplier on it. Don't go messing with it. But the one thing you do need to mess with, the second number, so you've got a cell times a number if you mouse over those. That number is going to be that particular team member's hourly rate. So it's important, as you can tell, that those are accurate. Don't just guess, pull files and look at rates if you need to, or jump into GP and get the information. So you need to make sure that the rates are correct. If it looks like my eyes are going all over the place, it's because I've minimized this window and I'm actually looking at the template also. So if I kind of have a weird look on my face sometimes, it's because I'm not really concentrating on the video, I'm concentrating on explaining this thing. So anyhow, where we go over and we get into column K through Q, that's where it starts to get a little bit intense, okay? So you've input the amount that you've got. Up at the top, you see a couple boxes. The top box is bold, solid, black. It says Department Manager to change weekly. Below that, you've got a different type of a border. It says Department Manager to change monthly from budget. And then you've got a dotted line border, Department Manager to change weekly from forecast. So that's going to indicate if you see certain cells that have these borders around them, those in particular are cells where you need to change numbers when you make this particular schedule, if this is how you're going to schedule your team. Below that, there's a star, an asterisk, and it says this format does not take into account overtime or holiday pay. That's important. While it is a nice, smart little form, it's not that smart. So you do need to be taking that into account at all times. If you're scheduling overtime, so on and so forth, if you're scheduling on holidays, the double pay, that type of thing. So going down a little bit further, it says total department budget month. All right, that's going to be the total amount that is budgeted for that particular department labor for the positions that we are scheduling. Now, on this one, I've got an hourly housekeeping manager lumped in with hourly room attendants and with hourly laundry attendants, the one that we're looking at, okay? So what I would have done on this, and I haven't pulled numbers because this is from years ago, but what I would have done on this is I would have lumped the budgeted amount for those 3 positions together to get this total department budget for the month. You don't need to do that if you don't want to. If you want to just do one schedule per job, you can do that. But for this particular team, I took the housekeeping, the executive housekeeper budget number for the month. If it was $3,000, I took the room attendant budget number for the month. If it was $9,000, and then I took the laundry department budget for the month. If it was $1,000, whatever, $1,500, and I totaled them all up. That's where I got that total department budget month. That would be cell P13 on this template. All right, so right below that says total dollars this schedule. That's going to be the total of everything that is sitting over there in the column J. Now that is not the total from column J6, which is your total occupied rooms that you have forecasted for the week. Okay, that number in this schedule is 330, column J or cell J6. 330 is literally there as a placeholder. It's used in formulas. You don't touch it, okay? But below that, you've got your wages. So all of those totaled up give you that total dollars this schedule. Then below that is scheduled CPOR, scheduled cost per occupied rooms. Okay, that number is cell P14 divided by cell J6. So what do we have for P14? Okay, P14 is total dollars this schedule, and then J6 is that total forecasted occupied room nights for the week that we're talking about. That's how we get cost per occupied room. All right, you've got, that's what we have scheduled per occupied room, right? So below that is budgeted CPOR for this month. Now how do you get your budgeted CPOR for any particular line item on your P&L or on your budget. Basically what you do is you take whatever that dollar amount is budgeted. If it was room attendance budgeted was $9,000, all right, and then you budgeted to do, I don't know, 3,000 room nights. I'm just totally pulling these numbers out of everywhere, right? Then your budgeted cost per occupied room is going to be the $3, okay? So anyways, so that's where you get your budgeted cost per occupied room, okay? So you're going to take whatever the dollar amount is for whatever line item we're talking about. In this case, we're going to talk about room attendance plus an hourly housekeeping manager plus laundry. And the budgeted amount, and we're going to divide it by our budgeted occupied rooms. That's important information, all right? Budgeted dollar amount divided by budgeted occupied rooms, not forecasted to get this number. So then you've got difference. Minus if good, positive if, or I'm sorry, minus if bad, positive if good. All right, so this, in this particular schedule, this says it's minus. Sitting here, minus $3.26. All right, that means that we're bad. We're in bad shape here. We're going to be overspending here. All right. Then you've got one that says adjusted department budget month. All right, that one has multipliers as well, so you're not going to mess with it. Go a little bit further down, though. Let's see, this is going to be column P26, budgeted room revenue. Okay, that's your budgeted room revenue for the month. Then you've got forecasted room revenue for the month. Then there's a forecasted percentage room revenue attained, okay? This is what's going to automatically, based on these simple little formulas, adjust what you have available to spend in this particular department for labor, okay? So if it said, if we were budgeted $115,000 in this particular month, and down there in forecasted room revenue we put 105, then it would automatically adjust what we really have to spend in order to flow properly in that column P18 that we're talking about. All right. So that's where you're going to want to know what you have forecasted for the month. Now, if it's going to give you more, if you're going to have an amazing month, then it'll go the other direction. It'll go in your favor and give you more money. Okay. So then we've got week 1 of month had scheduled, week 2 of month had scheduled, week 3 had scheduled, so on and so forth. Okay. So each week that goes by, you're going to continue to add in there what you scheduled for dollars the prior week. So each week you're going to add in, you're going to build in. Week 1 I had scheduled, see if we look at total this schedule, that's that column or that cell P14. Let's say this was week 1. We would end up putting that number when we make next week's schedule. We would put that number, that $3,084.20, into column P19 so that it would deduct and we would know week over week down in payroll used so far and payroll remaining, we'd know what we've got left. Okay, so you've got a lot of things that are working on this here for you. You're going to look and it's going to tell you right quick here if you're overspending on CPOR. It's got a little declining balance of your payroll here of the raw dollars amount that are left. All right, so you know, hey, can I maybe can I squeak by a little bit better this week and use some more money for next week or something like that. Okay, you know what you've got left. Now, like I say, this isn't taking into account things like overtime and holiday pay. You still have to keep all that in your head. All right, but anyways, this particular little template can give you some more information. It can give you a little bit better of a tool to keep track of things. But we need to get away from that blanket scheduling. All right. So this is what's going to help you. This is one tool, and you, like I say, you don't have to use this thing. This is one tool that's going to help you work towards managing your labor dollars a little bit better, having a little bit better control on things, and scheduling based on how we budget. Okay, so it would only make sense. See, your labor lines, like I said earlier, your labor lines on your budget are based usually, if you're talking about a variable labor department, your labor lines are based on occupied rooms. They're based on business levels. Okay, if we're talking about food and beverage, usually the labor lines, unless it's like a bartender and the bar's open this much and it's always open, but your labor lines are usually going to float off of sales. So rooms, your labor lines are flowing off of occupied rooms that we budgeted for. So why wouldn't we schedule these variable departments based on occupied rooms, taking into account budget CPOR, forecasted occupied rooms that we're going to have to turn or we're going to have to check in and out in service, and keep that finger on our pulse of what we've got left that we can work with. Okay, folks, I appreciate you sticking with me. You know how to get a hold of me should you have questions on this or want some help in customizing this particular template for your hotel and your departments. I really appreciate your time. Have a great day. Thanks.